Everybody, how are you? Holy smokes, guys. Hi, everyone. Wow, this is a big crowd. How many people are here from the foreign press? Show of hands? Just a few? Okay, well, thank you for being here. Guys, we're going to do a tutorial in how fake, bogus, defamatory news is made at the hands of many of you. Welcome. We're happy you're here. We know the world is watching us. We've got the foreign news that was here last night. We had an amazing event last night. I spent the evening with our first responders and our law enforcement, men and women who put their lives on the line every single day. And we talked about the issues that they're facing, and we discussed ways to make sure that we can protect them. We can hire more police, make sure that our police and firefighters are protected. And while this was happening, my desperate opponent, who's sinking like a lead weight in water, pulled a stunt, and you guys fell for it. She put out a defamatory statement, and you all ran with it. You didn't do your journalistic duty. It was malpractice of journalism like I've never seen before. And it was an effort, I believe, to influence this election. Many of you are an arm of the Democrat Party. Many of you are propagandists, and almost all of you should be ashamed. So I want to show you what happened yesterday. My Democrat opponent put out a statement. Where's our board here? Right here. She put out a statement. Actually, can you tilt that this way, Rayleigh? While I'm meeting with police officers and firefighters, working to make sure that our state is safe, she's pulling stunts, and you guys are falling hook, line, and sinker into it. She puts out a statement about a petty theft that happened at her office. She knew darn well that I had nothing to do with it, so she puts a statement out. And right away, your gatekeepers over at the Arizona Democrat Party jump on it, and they put a statement out, which was the cue to you to go ahead and start running with it. NBC News, an arm of the Democrat Party, was the first to start reporting on it. And then we get this from Newsy, whatever that is. Gubernatorial candidate campaign headquarters broken into. Oh, you guys spread this like wildfire. Then The Guardian, overseas. Campaign headquarters broken into, Watergate, oh my goodness. And then Axios, with our local reporter, Jeremy Dutta, runs on it. Can't wait to get it out. Does absolutely no fact checking. Runs with the fake news. Let's leave it there for right now. You got to do better, guys. We were 13 days out from the election, and you're trying to influence this election, much like you did in 2020 when you refused to cover Joe Biden's criminal son, Hunter Biden's laptop. You refused to cover that. You refused to cover the evidence that was on that. And this time it's the other way around. You're taking completely bogus stories and you're running with it. It's absolute fake news. I want to show you this. This was an actual picture and font that ran on NBC News. Vaughn, this is your news outlet. This ran on NBC News all day. All day. It says, GOP incites break-in at the campaign headquarters, Hobbs campaign headquarters. And look at the picture they picked. Thank you very much, Vaughn. Thank you, NBC. Look at this one. AZ Dem governor candidate Katie Hobbs blames GOP incitement for break-in at campaign headquarters. Again, MSNBC, an arm of the Democrat Party. Arizona Central runs with it. No fact-checking. You guys don't want to dig around. You just run defamatory statements. Stacy Bartender over at Arizona Repugnant, running this. I mean, I've got many of these guys. It's embarrassing. KOLD. It's a direct result of concerned campaign lies of intimidation, blaming me for a break-in. Now, hopefully by now, you figured it out, but that's part of the plan. You don't care about the facts. You know the facts will come out later. You'll cover those once or twice, no big deal. But you'll cover the lie. You'll spread it around the globe over and over and over again. That is how fake news is spread. You will absolutely take a complete bogus story. You knew lies were in that. Well, I have a story for you. We had an incident this morning at our campaign headquarters. Now, I didn't go crazy and I didn't throw a bunch of statements out. But we had an incident where somebody was seen rummaging in our campaign office. And I have evidence to believe it may have been Katie Hobbs herself who was involved in this. And so I want you to take the same vigor You put into the story the lies that were spread yesterday. And I want to make sure, you guys, I saw last night, Fox 10 News, my old employer, wow. They actually did more to protect the criminal in this case. They blurred his face. They protected Katie Hobbs because they're carrying her water. And they defamed me. They put defamatory statements, lies about me. And the reason they did that is because this was the real news yesterday that none of you wanted to cover. We're 11 points up. You're in a frenzied panic because your chosen candidate is not winning. You didn't want to cover this, so you had to run with a completely garbage bullshit story. Shame on each and every one of you. Shame on you. Now, we had an incident this morning at about 6:45 a.m. We have video, we have actually a photographic evidence of somebody rummaging through our campaign headquarters. And I believe it was Katie Hobbs, and I would like to show you that photographic evidence. I hope you'll cover this with the same vigor that you covered everything else. Now, we're laughing. I know this is a joke, obviously, in case you didn't figure it out. But what I'm trying to tell you is it's a joke what you guys are doing in the news. And the world should know that you guys are not serious journalists when you cover this garbage. Shame on you for trying to change the election results. I know, Joe, that your eyes hurt over there and you're too cool for school. Joe Dana doesn't even want to pay attention over here with 12 News, one of the worst instigators of fake news in town. This is the kind of garbage you guys spread. When I get to the questions, I will, Joe. But let me tell you, this was the real news yesterday, guys. 11 points up. Not a darn one of you covered it. I'm sure Fox 10, when they got the results of their poll, were shocked. They barely covered it as well. And it's really disappointing. And here's the story. It's Katie Hobbs' proposals and ideas that will have more crimes like this happening. It's not a joke when someone gets broken into. I know many people, we've been victims of crime. And we're going to see a lot more crime with Katie Hobbs' policies. Her policies to defund the police, to not support the police. She doesn't back our police. She actually denounces our police in order to get Planned Parenthood money. She voted against condemning rioters. The kind of policies Katie Hobbs is going to push on the people of Arizona is going to be so damaging. It's going to increase crime. And I hope that you guys will start covering some of her nonsense California-type socialist policies that will have us swimming in crime. And with that, I will take questions. If you have a question about this incident, I'd be happy to take them. I'm going to start over here with the Gateway Pundit.
Thank you, Kari. So, as you know, this is another dishonest strategy from Katie Hobbs. It's actually a conspiracy theory, what they blame you of peddling. So we recently found out that Katie Hobbs and her sister, her twin sister Becky, they tried to help you in the primary. Apparently they were donating to Republican Trump-endorsed candidates, and they were doing this because they know the media is so hard on you guys. Can Arizona trust Katie Hobbs or the fake news media?
Well, we can't trust the fake news media, and we know that Hobbs isn't going to win because her policies are terrible. She's way down in the polls, and without these guys working on her campaign, she wouldn't have any good press out there. Obviously, her sister, I heard, voted for me, her twin sister, so she's smarter than Hobbs, than Katie Hobbs. And I did hear some video that, I don't know who put it out, of her talking about this plan, and she sounds much more articulate than Katie Hobbs herself. Maybe she should have run. Because Katie Hobbs, sure enough, is a coward. She refuses to debate. She disrespects the people of this state by refusing to debate. She's willing to make up complete bogus stories. She knew that I had nothing to do with that break-in, and yet she perpetuated that lie. You guys all fell for it, and she knew you'd fall for it. Next question. Joe Dana. Let's go with Joe Dana, 12 News, who's so tired he can't even pay attention.
As we reported, Katie Hobbs' suggestion that you had something to do with it yesterday was unfounded. She had no evidence. Did you have evidence last night to suggest this was a Jussie Smollett case, that somehow she staged it?
I think you know what I was saying last night. I was pointing out that the media loves to run with these bogus stories that hurt conservatives. And they do it. No, let me answer. If you ask the question, let me answer. The media loves to run with bogus stories that hurt conservatives. And let me give you some examples. You love to smear Republicans. It's what you guys make your money off of. Thankfully, no one's watching you. Look what you did to Kyle Rittenhouse. You smeared him. Look what you did to Nick Sandmann, a teenage boy. You smeared him with no evidence. Same type of stuff, Joe. Same type of stuff. You smeared.
Did you You have evidence to suggest
I had
it
evidence,
was
yeah.
staged?
I didn't say it was staged. I said it was a Jussie Smollett type story, a political story meant to hurt conservatives. And I did have evidence that was the case. You know why? The evidence I had was I had nothing to do with it, and I knew that. You did the same thing, shame on you, with Kyle Rittenhouse, Nick Sandmann. You spread Russiagate bullshit stories for 3.5 years and divided this country. Thank God your ratings are in the toilet. That's exactly where they deserve to be. Start being journalists. Stop spreading the garbage that the Arizona Democrat Party and Katie Hobbs and the Democrats are spreading, and start doing your job. Next question, anybody? Sir, where are you? Who are you and what outlet are you with?
Yeah, Romain Fonsouleva. I work for the French news agency AFP, so I wanted to go back about last night. So obviously this is a very tense campaign, and there was an interesting question from one of your own voters who said, well, I want to vote for you, but I'm really worried about how to cast my ballot. And so what I would like to know is, if you win, are people going to be able to trust that you won fairly after you cast so much doubt on the electoral process here?
If I win, are people going to be able to trust the results? I'm worried about how the elections are run because my liar opponent who's willing to lie about this is already incompetent. The Arizona Supreme Court called her incompetent. We've already seen levels of incompetency in the previous primary where we ran out of Republican ballots in Pinal County. She's already messed up this race. I don't think she knows what she's doing. She's had her office shut down for 2 years. Are you reporting that, guys? Secretary of State's office closed for business for 2 years, except online because of COVID. Yeah, that's a fact. She's only showed up for work 19 days in 6 months. So I don't think her head's in the game to do the job and run the elections well. It's unfortunate, but we're going to turn it around, and we're going to make sure we get rid of loopholes for cheating, and we're going to make sure that every Democrat, Independent, and Republican in Arizona knows that we have fair elections. Got to do that. We won't have a country much longer. Thank you. Who are you and who are you with?
Joe Roth, Washington Examiner. I wonder how you would suggest that we as the media cover this story. Were we supposed to ignore it? There wasn't a lot of information. We were trying to report it out. I'm just curious how you...
Yeah, you dig around and you wait. You realize you have enough experience, hopefully, to recognize what this is. Late in the game, 13 days out, desperate campaign because they're falling like a rock in the polls. Again, she got word that she's 11 points down. And you use some discernment and go, wait a minute, let's think of the motivation here. Pause before we run with this. Jeremy Dutta, who runs with it like it's crazy, like it's, oh my gosh, we got to get this out. Stop and think for a minute. Think if it makes sense. Dig around a little bit. Talk to your sources. Don't just run with it. And don't put it around like NBC News did. Boy, they were so eager to put these stories out there that I had something to do with it. Slow down, get your facts straight, press her. You know, she did get pressed today, and she didn't want to talk about it. Isn't that funny? Yesterday she wants to spread this defamatory statement, and you guys ran with it. It's defamatory, guys. It's defamatory. It's accusing me of being a criminal. Do you get that? Do you understand what a defamatory statement is? You all spread defamatory statements yesterday in an effort to influence the election. So stop and think is what I'm asking you to do. Use some discernment. Use some critical thinking about what's happening. That's how you cover it. Next question.
Carrie, I gotta push back.
I've got a
AZ
question right
Central.
here.
We did not quote
Right here,
her
ABC
claims about
News.
you.
ABC News.
How can you stand here and say
I
that?
was wondering why you felt it was important to be here today as well, and just this is all coming amid these reports of voter intimidation. If you had any take on that, if there's voter.
Well, Abe's here for a variety of reasons. He's going to be law and order, and we're going to restore some law and order in this state. Also, he's been the subject of defamatory reporting as well. And we're really tired of it. The people are, you guys, the people are exhausted by the news you guys are spreading. They just want some honesty. And I know not everyone is a bad person here. I'm not accusing you of that. I know sometimes you take it back to the station. We used to say, it's not my sandbox, I just play in it, right? And you've got editors back there. Start pushing back. Start pushing back against these editors and covering the story well. I don't know, Abe, do you want to say something about, I know you've been the victim of fake news.
And the voter intimidation.
When you're looking at the media, it's dishonest what you all have done in the past year. I mean, if you see, my opponent was a member of your class, right? She was a former journalist at the Arizona Republic, Stacy. And if you saw, how long did it take you guys to write that story about her insider trading while she was a journalist at your paper? You guys were so quick to attack our campaign staff, but never attack my opponent's staff when she said that when her top campaign aide said that all law enforcement equals killing black people. None of you wrote any articles on that. You guys are playing cover for the Democratic Party, and you guys have become propagandists. And it's unfortunate because, you all claim to be guardians of democracy. First of all, that's offensive to veterans like myself who've actually served and served overseas. But second, you are nothing but guardians of democracy. When I said over the weekend that the media is the biggest threat to democracy, I meant it. What Kari just mentioned in the 2020 election, when you suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, you influenced an election. And right now, what you're doing when you're spreading these lies so quickly without any evidence. I'm a former prosecutor. You need evidence before you bring things to the court of law, before you try to go to the public. I mean, you could have influenced people's decisions based off of these stories, and that's exactly what we try to do. And in regards to the voter intimidation, I oppose any voter intimidation. It's undemocratic, but also the Phoenix New Times, is that trash organization here today? Good, they're not here. They reported on a donor of mine, doxing him, putting his face on front page news, and trying to intimidate his First Amendment right to donate to my campaign and financially support me. Now think about that. You guys are claiming the voter intimidation, but you guys are perpetuating donor intimidation as well by publishing this. So you have to do a better job. All me and Kari Lake want us for you to do is to do your jobs and do it well.
That's right.
Kari.
And with the voter intimidation, I'm with Abe. I don't believe in voter intimidation. It shouldn't happen. I want free and fair elections, and I want to make sure that we have those. And that's why I'm standing up, speaking out against you guys when you try to push a narrative, calling names like election denier, that kind of stuff. The real election deniers, and I think I told you guys, are the Democrats, okay? So let's stop with the name calling and start being real journalists. Do we have a question here? What's your name and who are you with?
I'm with ABC 15. We've seen the people outside of the ballot box. We've got 12 days left to the election, right? 11 days left or so. Those people outside with the tripods, filming some of the ballot drop-off locations. Even the sheriff of Maricopa County, Paul Penzone, had said there's nothing that they can do. It's not illegal. I wanted to hear your reaction, Kari, if you felt if that was okay, if you saw that as voter intimidation in any way.
So what are they doing? They're standing outside and they're taking photos? They're standing back?
That's right. Again, the sheriff said there's nothing that's criminal about it. The sheriff told us that on Monday. After there were
Do you realize the hypocrisy of this question? Your job, I worked 30 years, what you guys do. Your job is to stand on public property and take pictures. You do it all the time. We fought for that right. For a citizen, for a journalist to have freedom of speech, to stand on the public property and take photos. It's not a criminal act. It's not a criminal act, unless you guys are criminals.
Do you think they should be dressed in tactical gear and armed?
I think that's silly. I think it's silly. I'd like to see who they really are. I'd love to see a picture of their face because I don't like when people cover their face. I don't like masks. I think you should, if you're going to do something like that, you should show your face. Next question. Who are you with?
Taylor Tassler with KTAR News.
You're with KTAR?
Mm-hmm. Are you planning on suing the Hobbs campaign for defamation?
We're going to look at everything. I don't know. I mean, we're just going to vote her out of office and send her back to the private sector. And I really don't want to have Katie Hobbs at any point in my life. And I don't think the voters do either.
Kari, back to this voter intimidation question. I actually went down to the Maricopa County Tabulation Election Center last night. I spoke to sheriff's deputies in an unmarked car about what they're doing out there, right? And I actually asked them, are you looking for anybody who's stuffing ballot boxes? And they told me no. We're only out here to make sure that people aren't watching people drop their ballots in the boxes. What's the deal with that? Don't you think they should be looking out for this ballot trafficking or harvesting, which is illegal in the state?
Well, I think that, if this journalist or reporter, or I don't know what outlet it was with, said that they're doing nothing wrong, then they're doing nothing wrong. They're standing on public property taking photos. That is legal. And I really wish that hopefully they will. If people call in with any incident of vote problems, that I hope they're going to investigate them. I would count on them investigating them, so I'm counting on that. George.
Two things. One, congratulations on the 11-point spread, but we're
Thank
still
you.
the underdog as I see what's happening around
Oh,
me.
I got to keep fighting like we're
We
the
have to
underdog,
keep
because you
fighting.
know who I'm fighting against? The press.
Yes.
The disgusting propagandists who are trying to sway an election. You're trying to sway an election. This is going to be one of the darkest times in modern day journalism. It really is, guys. I think someday you're going to wake up to the fact of what you were up to. Back to you, George.
Also, I want to thank them because of your press releases that you're doing right now, man. And I have no ties to your campaign whatsoever. I'm a media person just like everybody else, and I like to make a public announcement. My feed went up to 790,000 views. 700, man. 7. And 75,000 people comments are saying to you, keep doing what you're doing. We're not listening to any other news.
That's right.
And that's what I wanted to give you this feedback as of this morning. I can reply to everyone.
I'm glad that people are awake. They're realizing this is how you get the information. We're streaming this, so the world is watching this. The people in America are watching this. And thank you for mentioning you had a lot of views. Is that what you're saying? Okay. And these guys don't have the viewers. And it's sad. I used to work at 12 News many years ago. We were #1. We had huge numbers. Now they have newscasts where it gets a little asterisk. And when you look at the ratings and you get an asterisk, that means no one's watching. They actually have newscasts on 12 News and some of the others with an asterisk. It means no one's watching, no detectable life watching. Their 10 o'clock newscast gets, on a good day, 2,000 viewers. These are the overnight ratings. This is a fact. I'm not picking on 12 News because all of the stations are just, the ratings are in the toilet. And they have access to about 7 million viewers. And you're not doing a good job, guys, if you're getting an asterisk, which means no one's watching, or you're getting 2,000 viewers out of 7 million. You're not doing a good job. Anybody over here have a question? Your name and who are you with? Cameron with Red State.
My question is in regards to that poll. So it shows
A little louder, Cameron.
so it's a little bit, it's in regards to the poll that was taken the other day. So it does show that you were up by 11 points, but it does show Blake Masters back down by 2. It's kind of within the margin of error. Why do you think that there's a disparity? And do you guys have any more campaign events planned?
We're doing a lot of events. Abe is an amazing candidate. I'm so looking forward to working with Abe as our next Attorney General. Blake is going to be an amazing U.S. Senator. And we're going to get Mark Fincham. He's going to win. He'll be Secretary of State. We want Tom Horn to win. We want Republicans up and down that ballot for the sanity and safety of our state. And we're working together as a team. Have you seen Katie Hobbs with anybody? Nobody wants to be seen with her. She's radioactive. She's radioactive. Even the national Democrats are saying she has the worst run campaign they've ever seen. She doesn't debate. They said Fetterman's a better candidate. They said Fetterman candidate. That's why she pulled this stunt, because of these poll numbers, and she knew that you guys would fall for it. This is defamatory. Would you allow somebody to make a statement like that against a prominent business leader in the community and run with it? You wouldn't do that. You would pause. You'd probably talk to your legal department, and you'd slow down and try to get your facts straight. But you didn't do that last night, and you're trying to influence the election. Any other questions? And who are you with?
Amy Flora with Washington Examiner. You spent a lot of time calling out the fake news. You even say you left the news industry because you felt yourself a real journalist. Who do you consider a real journalist?
I've talked about this before. I think John Solomon with Just the News is amazing. Cheryl Atkinson is amazing. I think the Epic Times does great work. And there's a few others. Thankfully, we have more independent people who've walked away and said, I'm still a journalist at heart. I'm still a journalist at heart. I'm going a different direction. But some journalists have said, I'm done with this. I'm walking away so I can maintain my dignity. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more and more independent journalists do the right thing and live to be true journalists. Any other questions? Your name?
Michael Raimondi with AZ Family. And Katie Hobbs' last statement, she said her refusal to contend threats are stoking chaos here in Arizona. Do you feel any sort of responsibility for that?
No.
And do you condemn the threats made against her in her office?
I believe in personal responsibility. You all heard of that? We don't have a lot of that. Personal responsibility. If somebody threatens someone, that's their responsibility. My responsibility is to work hard as a candidate and then work really hard as a governor to help Arizona. I'm in this for the right reasons. And unfortunately, you guys don't get that. And you're jumping at everything she says. It's ridiculous. If you make a threat, you need to live. I've had many threats. I don't go to the media with them. I get threatening letters. terrible letters. They would make you blush. They would make you angry. I throw them in the garbage can. My children have been followed and had pictures taken of them. My daughter gets threatening phone calls. We've had our tires slashed. We've had 4-inch screws drilled into our tires so that our tires would blow out on the road after events. We're living in dangerous times. And we got to have someone who is courageous to help run this state. And it is not Katie Hobbs. It is not Katie Hobbs. I don't go to you guys with everything that goes wrong. We keep it quiet. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to win, and we're going to help Arizona. Next question. Is there any more? Sir, who are you and who are you with?
I'm Neil Jones. I'm with the Arizona Sun-Times.
Hey, Neil.
Would you like to say anything to maybe someone college age who's thinking about becoming a journalist one day? What can they do to set themselves on
That's
the
a
right
great
path?
question. That's a great question. Really resist if you're in journalism school. You don't need to be in journalism school to be a journalist, as you probably know. You just need to have some common sense, have a love for getting to the bottom of stories, learn how to investigate, learn how to dig for evidence, but resist being an activist. Take your opinions, and we all have opinions. Not a single one of us is completely unbiased. We got it in there somewhere. Bury it deep down when you're covering a story. If you know your bias is in favor of someone like Katie Hobbs, which many of you I'm sure are in favor of her, you got to check that. You got to bring it back towards the middle. And knowing what your bias is, bring it back the other way. And just really pursue the truth. That's my suggestion. I hope some more honest young journalists decide to get into the field. I'm really inspired by a lot of the young conservatives coming up because they're really awake to some of the nonsense that's been fed to them, and I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of great young journalists coming up. Thank you for that question. Anybody else? You already had one? Ma'am, who are you and who are you with?
I'm Mai from NHK Japan.
You're from Japan?
Yes.
Are you covering this race?
Yes.
Wow.
I met you last night, Kari, and I asked you a question about former President Mr. Trump, and I have 2 questions. And first,
well, since you came all the way from Japan, I'll let you ask 2 questions. How's that?
And how do you feel you are known as Mr. Trump's endorsed candidate? This is my first question. And the second question is how do you think makes you different from him?
Well, the first question was, how do I know he endorsed me?
How do you feel you are known as Mr. Trump's endorsed candidate?
I'm known as his endorsed candidate, yes.
How are you different than him?
And how am I different from President Trump? Yes. Well, I mean, I have a different background. I was born in Iowa, raised in a large family, youngest of 9. I grew up in a much different background. He, of course, came from New York and came from a different kind of family, real estate family. But we do have a lot in common, that we both love our country. We're patriotic, just like the people behind me. We all love our country. Yes. We all have that patriotism in us, that tingle you get when you hear the national anthem. That's patriotism. And we love this country. And so I feel in ways that I'm similar to him is that I'm willing to set my personal life aside, jump into this race, and work hard to save our state and protect our people. Differences, obviously, we're a lot different. We're 2 individuals, different backgrounds, but we have a lot in common in that we both love our country very much. Any other questions? Somebody who didn't get a question? Joe, you already had one. Anybody over here have a question? You already had one. Okay, Joe, I'll give you one more.
So yesterday, police released initial information about the burglary. And you had a candidate for governor make unfounded allegations.
Defamatory.
About your campaign. At what point would you say the media should publish a story? Because they asked you, they went to you for the response last night, and you called them despicable.
I called you guys out. I said, this looks like a real political story, much like the Jussie Smollett thing, where it's just a big political, obviously a political garbage story to be political. I gave you a warning. That's what the type of story we were talking about. You all know that this guy is a career criminal. It's not his first encounter with the law. He's done other crimes like this. Didn't take a lot of time. I don't think this was a matter of urgency that needed to be reported so quickly that you couldn't get the facts out and that you were willing to put out defamatory statements about me, my supporters, and our team. That's my problem. These were defamatory statements. And thank you very much. We had one more over here. Somebody had raised their hand. Red State.
Yeah, so my question is in regards case, it was a petty theft. Taking the political kind of aspect of it aside, what kind of there's been like a crime issue going on downtown lately.
Yes.
How are you planning on working with the city of Phoenix to kind of combat the theft? And
Thank you for asking that. Let me talk a little bit about my policies. My husband has been a victim of a crime several times, had his vehicle broken into, had storage spaces broken into. This was over the years, and they don't get any coverage when someone has their car broken into, when someone has their office broken, unless you're Katie Hobbs. You don't get any coverage for that. Nobody in the media covers it, and it's still a difficulty. If you have something stolen out of your car, it's valued at $500, or if your office is broken into, this sets you back. This can be something that sets people back forever. If you're already barely making it month to month and someone breaks into your apartment, your car, steals your purse, steals money, that can set you back, and it's hard to come back from that. These are crimes happening all over, and because we're short-staffed in our police departments, they don't have the time to address all of this. We are going to work with the cities to get them fully staffed in their police departments. We don't want them hundreds of officers down. We want them fully staffed. We want our brave young men and women to get into the noble profession of law enforcement. And we're going to encourage that because we're going to know they have a governor who supports them. And we're also going to push for something called broken window policing. If you don't know what it is, check it out. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, he brought that into play in New York City at a time when that city was a complete mess, unsafe, and they started going after every small crime. Small crimes lead to bigger crimes. We are going to start going after the small crimes throughout Arizona. The citizens of our cities and our state deserve a safe state. We're going to start coming down hard on all crime. And the governor's office is going to be pressuring the cities to do that, and we will work with the cities to help them implement that policy, but we demand our cities and our police come down on crime so that we have safe states, a safe state, and we don't have all these break-ins, burglaries, small crimes, medium-sized crimes. They lead to bigger and bigger crimes. And I'll tell you what, if a criminal knows they can get away with a small crime, they move on to a bigger crime and a bigger crime. And we're watching across this country as attorneys are letting murderers out. They're letting people who are doing time or who are accused of very serious violent crimes out. I'd like to have Abe actually talk about this because we got to make sure we're working together to come down on criminals and crime in this state. Do you want to say a couple words, Abe?
Thank you for asking that question because too often the media has neglected this rise in crime that's happened in the past year. And a lot of it, if you look all across the country, you see this defund the police movement, which so many of you have supported, which our opponents have actually pledged to defund the police by taking the endorsement of a radical organization. So this is why it's so critical. When Kari Lake and me, we had that press conference last month, we received the top law enforcement endorsements from all over the state of Arizona because law enforcement knows we're going to have their backs. Come January, we're not playing by the same old rules. We are not intimidated by the cities. I get thanked for my military service all the time, but we need to be thanking our men and women who wear that blue uniform every single day, and they go to the streets of war without the backing of the city council, without the backing of the city mayor. When regards to the rise in crime, here at the Attorney General's office, just last year, the state legislature just authorized a new organized retail theft unit. All those smash and grabs that we're witnessing across the country. So now the AG's office has jurisdiction because the county attorneys, they're overburdened, or some of them are Soros funded, and they're refusing to prosecute some of these basic crimes. Because I think right now society has turned into having criminals become the victims. Criminals belong in jail, not on our streets. Right. And both of our opponents support ending cash bail, right? We've seen what these policies have led to. They've led to misery, chaos, and death. And it's time we go back to common sense, and that's exactly what Kari Lake and myself offer.
That's right. Could I ask when we're talking about the relationship between governor, attorney general, cities, and mayor, KKA a couple of weeks ago was sitting a few feet away from you, and we called her socialist here. How do you intend to actually work with the mayors? Because we're used to relationships that are a little bit more jovial and work a little bit more hand in hand.
Actually, when I called her a socialist, she chuckled. She probably agrees. Some of her policies have been very much socialist policies.
So what does that look like come January?
Come January, we're going to work together. I can work with anyone. I can work with anyone. And we're going to work with the city of Phoenix, and we're going to encourage them to start taking law and order seriously. We're going to help our police so that we want them to be fully staffed. We want them to be able to, we want them to support their police, and we want the city council to support their police. And I can work with her because I hope we have the same goal, that we care about the citizens. I care about the citizens of the state, and I hope she cares about the citizens of Phoenix. And if we both care about the citizens of our state and our city, then we should be able to work together to bring about safe streets. And I hope that she's willing to work with me to bring about safe streets. If not, we will be calling her out. We will let everyone know that she's not willing to work, but I think she will, because I do believe she loves the people of Phoenix. I hope to goodness she does.
Hey, you just mentioned smash and grabs. A new Phoenix police report on this incident just came out that shows the suspect only took 3 items: an Apple keyboard, an Apple computer mouse, and a Nikon camera. Does this look like a smash and grab, or does it look like political?
Well, I can't comment. I don't know the facts. I'm a former prosecutor. I haven't seen the police reports or anything. But smash and grabs usually refer to, Jordan, as when there's this orchestrated effort to go into, say, gas stations, and they go in, raid it really quickly, and leave. So I don't know what it is. All I know is that we've seen a rise in crime. And it's because of the policies that Democrats have espoused, like Katie Hobbs, like Chris Mays. They haven't had the backing of our police. And that's why the police support Kari Lake and myself. So they've harmed our citizens. And it's actually come back to bite her. I mean, her policies have led to a burglary coming into her own office because there's criminals on the streets. Yep. So Kari Lake and me, we're going to be protecting our opponents when we take office.
That's right. So anyway.
So I watched you in your meetings, and you want to secure your borders and want to declare a state of invasion so that state police can bring back migrants to Mexico, pretty much, if I got the gist right. How are you going to do that if immigration is a federal competence, and how do you plan on fighting back the
our plan, he's asking how am I going to do this
up?
with it being a federal. We're going to try to work with the feds, but I don't think we're going to be able to. So we're just going to stop people from coming over. We cannot bring in 5 million people. And talk about crime. I know that you guys don't want to admit it, but many of them are criminals that are coming over. And we can't continue to have this happening. Drugs are pouring across. That's feeding a lot of the crimes that we're seeing on the street. The burglaries, the thefts that are happening are fueled by somebody who's an addict trying to get their next fix. We have to start helping the people of this state. The law-abiding people deserve some backup and some protection, and we're going to provide that. We thank you all for being here. And we just hope you'll do better. We are 12 days out in this election. Your voices are loud, even though not many people are listening anymore, but they still are loud. Please do better. Please don't try to influence this election. It's wrong. It's wrong, and I think you all know it. Start being honest and fair journalists. Journalists. Don't run defamatory statements like that. And if you're going to start running a bunch of defamatory statements and make-believe imaginary stories, then can you guys pull this back and show our surveillance photo? Then please cover the incident at our headquarters today and cover it with the same vigor and vim and enthusiasm that you cover everything else when Katie Hobbs squawks. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And we'll see you guys, I'm sure, in the days to come. Thank you.